Guys, can you take out your notes, please, for
I got some
section 9?
What? Can I have one? No. What? Share. No, because I only get 3, Miss Fiddler. Sharon is Karen. She only gave me 3. You're not Karen. But you're right.
All right, everybody good? All right, so the last 2 days, I guess last Friday and yesterday, we learned 2 different theorems that had to do with when you have either 2 chords, a secant and a chord, or 2 secants, or a secant and a tangent intersecting. And this is the one that we learned last Friday where we had 2 chords intersecting. And remember, if we knew like this was 5, this was X, this was 2, and this was 10, what we did there is we took these 2 pieces multiplied and set it equal to those 2 multiplied, 2 times 10. So we would do 5x equals 20 and x equals 4, okay? So that was our first rule. Then yesterday, we learned the rule with 2 secants, and that was when we took the external part, the outside part of the secant times the whole thing equals the external part times the whole thing, okay? And in both of these cases, at times we had to factor. So today what we're gonna do is learn what happens when you have a tangent and a secant. So just so you understand the difference between those 2, a secant intersects a circle in 2 parts. A tangent intersects a circle in 1 part. And I think these are easier actually than what you did yesterday, because what you do with these is whatever your tangent is, you square it. And then for the secant, we do exactly how we did yesterday. So we take this outside part times the whole thing, okay? So in both cases, you take your tangent and you square it, and then you take the external part times the whole thing. Okay, so again here, like say that you knew this was X, this was 2, and this was 6, let's say, okay? So what you would do is you would take X and you'd square it, and then you take the external part, which is 2, times the entire part, which is 2 plus 6, which is 8, okay? And so x squared would equal 2 times 8, which is 16. And then we would just take the square root, and the square root would be 4, okay? They're not always going to turn out like that where it's a whole number, but that is the gist of what we'll be doing. So in this one, what we would do is we would take our tangent part, which is 3.3, and we square that, okay? Then we take the external part, which is 2.2, and we multiply that by these 2 added together. So that would be 2.2 plus x, okay? Now, if we go on our calculators and we do 3.3 squared, that is 10.89. Okay, and then here we distribute 2.2 times 2.2 is 4.84. And then 2.2 times x is just 2.2x. Then to solve that, I'm gonna just bring my 4.84 over to the left. 10.89 minus 4.84 is 6.05, and that equals 2.2x. And then we would divide by 2.2. And when we do that, whoops, we would divide, and what'd you guys get?
2.75.
Thank you. 2.75 would be your answer. Okay. All right, now if we go to this page, again, what we always do is we take our tangent and we square that. So our tangent is x, so we square that. And then we set that equal to the outside part of the secant times the entire secant, which is 8 plus 10, which is 18. Okay, 8 times 18 is 144. And then when you take the square root of that, this one happens to be a whole number, but don't think that they always have to be. Okay? Now this next example is probably the hardest one that you're gonna see today. So here's what you're going to do. You again, you can square that 12 on either side, but so far today I've been squaring the 12 first. So I'll go 12 squared, and then I'd go x times, now what do you guys think this whole thing would be?
2x plus 2.
Yeah, x plus 2 is 2x plus 2. Very good. Okay. Now, 12 squared is 144, and then when I distribute this, 2x times x is 2x squared, x times 2 is 2x, and this is one, do you guys understand that we have to factor? And the reason we have to factor it is because I have an x squared, an x, and a number, okay? So I'm gonna rewrite this, and I'm gonna bring the 144 over, so it would be 2x squared plus 2x, and then when I bring that 144 over, we're gonna subtract 144, okay? Is this different than some of them we've done, than every one we've done so far?
Yes.
What's different?
There's a 2 with x squared.
There's a 2 in front of the x squared. Now when you guys take Advanced Algebra 2 next year, right off the bat, you're gonna be factoring, and you're gonna be factoring stuff like this with a number in front of the x squared. The way that geometry works is like 99% of the time, the problems we have in our book don't have a number in front of the x squared. And then I can show you how to do it that way at some point, but this one would be a lot easier if we used another type of factoring, which is called taking out a common factor or common monomial, if you've ever heard that. And what you can do here is look if there's something that goes into all of them. What goes into all of them? 2. So basically what you're doing here is you're taking a 2 out, or you could think of that 2 as kind of dividing everything by 2. So if I divided this by 2, I'd get x squared, or I could think of 2 times what gives me 2x squared. And then 2 times what gives me 2x, and 2 times what gives me a negative 144, that would be negative 72. Now, in factoring, when you take out just a plain number with no variable attached, you can forget about that and act like it's not even there, okay? And that is, I should say, when you're solving it, okay? If I was just factoring this and not finding what x is, then I wouldn't get rid of that 2. but if I'm trying to find what x is and it's just a plain number, I can forget about it. So now what I'm gonna do is come over here. I'm gonna forget about that 2. I'm gonna put the x squared here. I'm gonna put the negative 72 here and here. And then I'm gonna put the plus 1 right there, okay? Now, I wanna find 2 factors of a negative 72 so that when I add them, I get a positive 1.
Negative 9 and 8.
Would it be negative?
So, sorry, 9 and negative 8.
9 and negative 8, very good. So 9 times a negative 8 is negative 72, and 9 plus a negative 8 is 1. So one of these is gonna be 9x, one's gonna be negative 8x, okay? And then we have to figure out what goes here. Well, if that's x squared, it's x and x. And then we think, what times x gives us 9x? That's 9. X times what gives us negative 8x? That's negative 8. And then you can think of this as a plus. So when we get done here, like I said, you could put that 2 there, but it doesn't affect your answer at all. So it's not wrong to keep it there. And then one of the factors is x plus 9, and one is x minus 8. And then when we do our answers from this, you just kind of ignore that 2, and you do x is the opposite of this, which is negative 9, and x is the opposite of this, which is positive 8. Can we use the negative 9? No, we can't have a negative length, so our answer is x equals 8. Okay? Now, another thing that they will do in this section is sometimes they draw things that have nothing to do with the question. So like in this one, this segment right here, as well as that segment right there, have nothing to do with the problem. They're just trying to confuse you. So what you need is you need that tangent, and it's x, so that means we square that x, okay? Then we take the outside part, which is 5, and now this you have to think about. Do you think that 15 is this whole diameter? No, it's the radius. So do you get if that's 15, this is 15? And then what would this whole distance be? 15 plus 15 plus 5 would be 35. Very good. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is go x squared equals, is that 175? And then we would take the square root of 175 and round it to 2 places. Did anyone do that?
13.23.
Okay, thank you. All right. Then, if we look at this last one, again, this right here is not important, okay? So in this one, we're gonna take the tangent and square it. Then we take the outside part, which is x, times, if this is 6, do you think this is 6? Yes, because they are both radii. So what would the whole thing be? X plus 12. X plus 6 plus 6, which is x plus 12. So this is going to be x plus 12, okay? 8 squared is 64, and then here I distribute. X times x is x squared, x times 12 is 12x. Now I'm going to factor that, and when I factor it, I have to bring that 64 over, so I'm going to get x squared plus 12x, and when I bring that over, it's minus 64. So I can put my x squared here, minus 64 here, minus 64 here, and a positive 12. Does anyone know 2 numbers that multiply, Christian?
16 and negative 4.
Yep. So a positive 16 times a negative 4 is negative 64, and 16 plus a negative 4 is a positive 12. So I can go 16x and negative 4x, and then this would be x times x, this would be 16, that would be negative 4. Put your plus there. And we have x plus 16 times x minus 4. So x would equal a negative 16 and x would equal 4. Do they both work? Just 4, right? All right. So your assignment for today is these worksheets, and then it looks like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 problems. So it should be in Schoology. If it's not, let me know. And then I'll try to find a key to that too.
I said what time? I said 5:45. Well, you know, my parents are staying up after school till then. Right. So I said, yeah, I know. So was that a no? Or is that a, I'll think about it unless you know, because that's a no. Well, then you come to me, I just said, yeah, I know. Wait, no. He never said no, he never said yes. He just said that he's probably jumping on to the next solution. That's what my mom would. Like, is it possible for you to come home at 9 and drive on this? That's what my mom would say. Or go lay in his house and then I wanna know, like, I need to just say, yeah.
So you guys, in this workbook up here, the 572 is on this page, and then there's 579 and 580. Okay, so that should be your answers.